Hello, everybody. We are here for a new episode of the Leaderboard podcast. And today we have Eva Raposa, which is our first guest star. So, Eva, would you like to introduce yourself for the audience?
Hi, I'm Eva. I have a couple groups, well, a few groups now. I have one hidden. On Skool, there's the Solid Lab for Soul for CEOs, and then we have a second one that's for clients who just buy like a single workshop or smaller offers and aren't part of the main group. And I also have an English language group in there. And yeah, that's it. The one that has the star is my main group, though, the Soul for CEO Lab.
Amazing. So, how did you start creating communities, and what is the mindset that came with you to create such amazing communities where people feel drawn to share their knowledge and connect with others?
So it's funny. I've been making communities for a really long time, and I remember when my daughter's a teenager now, and I remember when she was a baby, how I had a really just thriving community that was at the time called the Uncooking Club. It was within my raw food business, and we had just lots of people, and it was a really active part of my business for a long time. At the time, I think we were on Ning. I tried out a lot of different platforms, and I wasn't doing communities for a little while because for some time Facebook was the place where I would have the community and then I would have the courses elsewhere. And I didn't really feel like doing Facebook communities anymore. So I actually stopped hosting communities and then I came back to it because I joined Skool. And I mean, Skool is just amazing for communities. It's as good as it gets. So yeah. I like people. I like getting together and chatting about things and having accountability and having resources at our fingertips and being able to have someone as part of the journey. Like in the mornings, I'll be very brief with this, but in the mornings I have an accountability buddy for getting exercise. And so we chat. We have a 6:15 a.m. date. So that means I wake up at 6 and then at 6:15 we're gonna have our running chat. And there's something about having that person there, somebody else who's on that journey with me, and we're committed. It's different. So I feel like in a community we have this shared mission and we have shared things that we're doing and talking about, and it's a different dynamic than doing things all by yourself. It's just totally different.
I totally hear it. This remind me of this quote that it's not the destination, it's not the journey, it's the people we share the journey with that makes everything important. And I think that's what really makes life meaningful because when we see a lot of people get super successful, a lot of money and everything, and but in the end, it's really a relationship that we're here for. So for people who are creating communities or even in synthesizers, and they want to be part of the community, but they don't really know how to do. What would be your best advice for them?
Hmm. So would this be within synthesizer specifically, or would this just
Yeah.
be okay? So I would say if you're in synthesizer, we do have a very specific mission in that group, which is essentially to build a business where you're making beautiful money. So that beautiful combination of impact and income together, where you're doing something that you it really feels like it's from your heart and soul, but also people are happy to pay you that money because they know that you're helping them in a really impactful way. So in there in synthesizer we have the roadmap, and so even though it's not exactly to the T exactly the way that I've started my business and grown my business, there's so much good in the roadmap. And I think somebody who's really truly at zero, who doesn't know what they're doing, that would be a good place to start. It's just let it be step by step. Go through the first video and the second video and go through the seven C's. So we start with consuming content that's related to what we think is like we have this inkling of what we think we're going to be doing. And that's what you're consuming content about. And then from there, you comment on content that's related to that. And then you start conversations and you end up in the chat and potentially if it resonates with you, you get on calls, discovery calls and sales calls and all of that. And then from there you do the case studies and you get clients and like that's it. And it's like that's it, that's the journey. And so if you're in synthesizer and you're not sure what to post, well, just going through the roadmap will help to give you the ideas of what to post. And just thinking about the accountability share, this is kind of a really lovely group where you can have that accountability. So when I was first going through the roadmap, I said, I feel like this has more value than a usual free program in a group. Like, I think there's something to it. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to commit to going through this and we'll see what happens. And so I created a roadmap accountability thread of sorts where I literally went through step by step. And then I gave myself a date. I said, okay, I'm going to finish this module by this date. And so then I would follow up and in thread, I was actually in the beginning, I was summarizing all of them. I didn't do it for the final few, but all of the early ones, I really carefully went through it and I took the notes and I made a summary and then I shared my summary and then I would link to that. So that way I wasn't just holding myself accountability for checking the boxes so much as like really understanding what it is I was going through. And that was a lot of fun. So you see, there's some other members like Olga, for example, she did an outreach challenge. And there are a number of challenges like this that happen over and over and over where we say, okay, well, I'm going to take this part of this business strategy from the synthesizer roadmap that matches where I am right now. And I'm going to make it a challenge and I'm going to share. And, as I have lessons and figure things out, I'll share those. If I have questions, I'll ask them. But I know that I'm committed to completing this challenge and doing this part of the roadmap. So, yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, well, yeah, I do understand. Like taking the roadmap and understanding how it works, and then just being there and creating content about what you're doing with the roadmap, like really sharing your journey. Like what we're saying, just it's not about the roadmap, it's not about where it leads. It's really about sharing the journey that we have in the roadmap. And that way of like connecting with people is not by doing the roadmap by yourself on your side. It's just really to create content about what's happening so people can see, people can interact and comment. Uh, and on the other side, if I'm not creating content, what would you say to someone who wants to connect with people?
Hmm. Just in general to connect with people.
Yeah, within the group, I'm opening the page and I see all these posts.
Okay.
What would you do? What would you say?
I would say to look and see which content draws you in, which post like really feels like, oh, I've got to read that. And then you open it up, and then if it really resonates, then the conversation that started is one that you want to be part of. Just be part of it. And then this is, in alignment with looking at the roadmap, thinking about the, consuming content. So if you're consuming content that happens to be in synthesizer and you comment on that, then if you find that you truly feel connected with somebody else who you've connected with in the comments or who created the post or whatever, then that's a really beautiful opportunity for you to reach out privately in the DMs and say, and without an agenda, without the dollar marks on their heads, without feeling like you're laughing, Asha, because I know we've had this conversation before. But, with pure motives, the intention is connection. Like that's what we're talking about here. So to connect with them in the DMs and say, whatever's real, that share something specific from the post or share something specific from their comments or something that like really touched you or you really felt what they were writing and you really felt inspired. It inspired you to do a thing. And so maybe they're talking about how important it is to do X, Y, Z. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that. And then you do X and then you do Y and you're like, wow, I'm doing the X, Y, Z. And then you send them a message and you say, hey, like, I just want to let you know that your post didn't just inspire me, it inspired me to action. And look, I did X and Y already. And tomorrow I'm going to do Z. And then it's just like, it's also reaffirming for that other person that you're connecting with that, like, hey, your post is your post has value. What you shared has meaning. And I will say I have some challenges in groups, and not necessarily. I don't want to specify synthesizer right now, but there is a challenge sometimes in groups when it feels like things are AI generated, and then it's hard to find that connection. So if you're looking to create content or to connect with content, just be aware that not everybody out there is going to connect with things that are just like perfectly perfect as ChatGPT or other AI sources might create them. So just be aware that humans do really tend to connect with humans, and it's okay if what you write is from your heart and it doesn't seem as perfect as it might otherwise. So yeah, that's what I'll say about that part.
It's very beautiful, because I feel like a lot of people who are online and learn online marketing from the biggest guru, they forgot the human connection, and they come with a dollar sign. They put a dollar sign on the head of everybody. And I've been there also. I've learned that from people like, oh, everybody you talk to, they're a potential customer. You have to go as fast to the sale. And what I really love with what you've been sharing in different calls is that the currency is the connection, and that when we go with the intention of connecting with people, we might not have a sale from that person, but it might lead to something different. And this is the beauty of it, is that your client is not especially the person you're talking to. They might refer you to the client, and that might be even better. And really keeping the connection within the mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is true. I mean, in if you're building a business where your intention is beautiful money and you really care about making a mark on the world and connecting with clients, so you feel like our soul clients, like you are meant to be together, you're meant to be working together, you're meant to help them on the journey, and they're meant to help you on your own journey in one way or another. Like we're on the journey together, then currency is absolutely the or connection is absolutely the currency that matters in terms of that kind of business.
And if I was very shy person and I didn't know how to do things, and I've commenting to a few people, but I kind of want to chat with them, what would you advise to a person that's like starting out and then they want to chat with people and they don't know when to start chatting with people? What would you say to them?
Oh, that's a really sweet question. I mean, it could be easy to just say, just do it, but that's not my suggestion. My suggestion would be to see who you truly do have that deepest connection with. Like you feel an actual spark, and you have. So you wouldn't want to see 100 posts and send a DM to 100 people or to comment to 100 people's posts, but see something that truly does resonate. And remember that especially when you are wanting to be listening to that whisper of your soul, you can't be sitting there like deep in like a pool of ego where you're like, oh, what will they think? What if I say the wrong thing? It doesn't work. It has to come from a really nice space. And when you realize that those interactions and connections and whatever you share can make a positive impact and can create connections that matter in your life, then it's a lot easier to just say, oh, I'm just going to write whatever and that comes to me, whatever feels right or whatever I have to share, and just do it. But first, when you feel that spark, when you know that there's something that you have that can actually contribute, and then think, there are two options. I have this information, this experience, this lived experience in my own business or in my own life, and either A, I can share that, or B, I don't share that. And if you think about how like this information could actually help somebody, and then you're like, I don't know, what if they don't like it? Like it's actually withholding something of value in a way. It's like it's nice. There's a gal named Fabian Fredrickson who uses the analogy of when you're creating a business and you're not sharing your offers, you're not sharing something of value, you're not sharing like free, paid, whatever, but you're not sharing the value that you have. It's kind of like you have brownies that you've baked and they're in the kitchen and you're like hoping nobody will eat your brownies and you have so many that you could share them, but you're just like, yeah, them all here. So I heard that analogy maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and I like that analogy. It resonates with me because I really like brownies. And I can see how that would be just like wrong to not share your brownies. So,
I totally understand, and I want to eat some brownies now. Yeah, it's really about giving to people something that's valuable, like as entrepreneurs, as coach, we create something that's valuable because probably at one point in life we felt that this was so important that we wanted more people to have it. I mean, personally, that's always how I've started a business. I always like discovered something and like, oh my God, I want everybody to have it. So really going from that place of giving, of heart. And what are the gold nuggets that you've learned throughout your journey on social media, creating communities and fostering connections?
oh gosh. Well, one thing I'll share is I don't know if this is appropriate for this moment. All right, so here's the deal. Social media specifically is a place where a lot of people tend to be very polished. It's like the highlight reel. It's like, oh, here are the wonderful things that are happening in my life. And then and then all of the other pieces are missing. And I remember there was a day, so I have a fake tooth, and I'm gonna don't edit this out. It's scary, but it's not that scary. But so I have a fake tooth, right? And it's if I don't wear it, it's not as polished. And so there was a day when I couldn't find my tooth. I was like, no, I need my tooth. And I had some things I was going to be doing, and I was sharing regularly on social media, and I was doing all the things, and I was like, oh, okay, I've got to find my tooth so that people don't see me without my tooth. And then the moment that thought hit my head, I said, this isn't how I work. This isn't how I function in this world. Like, I can't be scared that somebody sees like some part of me that might not be as polished or as pretty or whatever. And I just felt like from that moment, I said, well, I've got to make a video about this. I've got to like make it live. And so I made a Facebook Live where I wasn't wearing my tooth the whole time. And I think I might have even found the tooth by that point, but I just said, you know what? I did find it. I said, you know what? I've got to share this. And so I made a whole video talking about how important it was to allow the whole parts of us to be exposed and visible at times, and to find ways to not feel ashamed of parts of who we are, and to realize that everybody out there has the things that they don't necessarily share with everyone. And I just felt like for me as a human, if I only can share the prettiest sides, and if I only can do a video, like I didn't take the time to put makeup on today. So I just didn't. So here we are, we're having a video, and I didn't polish myself up in that way. And like what if I didn't want to do any videos or any meet with any clients unless I did those things? It gets really complicated having to have a certain face that people can see, and then everything else is hidden. But that particular video, and I'm really mad at Facebook right now because now Facebook has done this thing where they've decided that Facebook lives that are more than 30 days old, they just delete them. And so it's gone. At some point I did download it, but it's gone. But that particular video got a lot of interaction, a lot of comments, a lot of likes and what have you. But I also got a client from it. Like, how fascinating was that? That I got a client from it. Someone I had literally never met before in my entire life at that point. But she saw the video, and then she ended up thinking, oh, this is really interesting. And then she ended up poking around other things on my page, going to my website, and then she reached out and she was like, hey, I think we need to connect. And I think like I might want to work with you. And so then we had a call, and she became a client. That was a really fascinating thing for me, that video was so pure and so real and somehow so powerful that instead of scaring people away, it drew somebody to me that I had never met before, and who then became a client very quickly. Like, we're talking same week she became a client, paid a big, that was anyways. So I think you were just asking generally about social media. So I guess I'm just saying be real. But also with social media and posts in general, there's this dance of being real and also seeing what resonates. And so you also have to be really thoughtful about the data. If you're posting a YouTube video that give you an insane amount of data showing you like where do people drop off, how many people are seeing it that are already people who like your channel versus people who are like seeing it in the feed versus, so there's this beautiful mix. And this is literally my business, Soul First CEO. So the idea is we use the data, we have the systems, we think from a logical mindset, but we also share what's real and come from the space of like the first thing that's most important thing is a soul first business. And so then we get smart with it and take those things that are very real and amplify what's the most important in a smart way. So yeah.
I
Did that
totally
answer what you're
understand.
asking?
No, it is a very good, it's a very extensive, a very good answer, like of being authentic, showing the real part of yourself. And I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the guy was explaining that we have three persona. We have the public persona, we have the private persona, and we have the secret persona. And
Mm,
on social media, we often want to show the best public persona, like the most polished version. But actually, we're the most comfortable in a private. That's where we intimate. That's the moment we can relax. And I would say in a couple, like that the moment we can fart next to the other and not care about it.
Yeah.
And then there is the secret, and the secret is where we hide our suffering, and that's where growth comes. And when we're able to move the secret to private and the private to public, that's the moment where it expands. And so a lot of people they polish this version in order to be attractive on social media and believing that their secrets are hidden. And one thing that this person was saying is that it's not because it's a secret that people don't know about it. Your ego wants to hide it, and you hide it in your
Mm-hmm.
back. But people
Hmm.
around you, they can see what's in your back. You're the only one not seeing your back. Like I have tattoos on my back, I don't see them.
Yeah.
But other people see them. And that is the thing, is that social media gives us the illusion that we can hide, but
Mm.
actually we're just hiding from ourselves. And that's what I love with your with the courage that you have of saying, you know what, I'm not gonna hide, I'm gonna show myself the way I am, and I'm gonna see who am I attracting. And that reminds me of a quote from David Goggins, who was trying to fit in into his school because he was rejected. And then one day he said, fuck it. I don't want to hide myself." And he decided to sit at a table by himself. And then people start gathering around him. And he said, "It just took me one day of courage, of like sitting alone on a table,
Yeah.
to just be myself." And that's what you did. You had one moment of courage, and someone just came to you and said, "Oh, I'm gonna work with you. You're courageous. You're not afraid of showing your secret. You went from secrets to public. This is beautiful." Well, Eva, do you have any last words for people watching?
Gosh, I don't know. I feel like we talked about so much. I don't have anything that's just popping to me. Now I feel like I need to.
Well,
Something significant. I say just keep showing up. Like
keep
really
showing.
showing up. I think that's it. When we keep showing up, that my daughter does karate, and they talk about, well, maybe it's technically taekwondo. They talk about the principles of taekwondo, and two of them that we've been talking about these words. One of them is perseverance, which is basically not giving up. But then there's the indomitable spirit, which is not wanting to give up. So there's something to that, to you know, staying really deeply connected with your why you're doing this, why you're showing up to build a business, why it matters to build that business. And that helps to give you that indomitable spirit because you're so deeply connected with the why that when things get really unsexy, really boring, really difficult, like you can still move forward. And then the perseverance is where, you're like actually doing the thing. So yeah, yeah, she just had a belt ceremony yesterday, and she's anyway. So that's kind of fresh on mind because we were talking about the things. But
Beautiful. I
yeah,
love the idea of perseverance, and like in martial arts, we need to show up and do the dojo, and just be there, like show up every day and give something. Thank you, Eva, for this interview. It was a pleasure to have you. And guys, if you also want to be here, just make some noise on Synthesizer, bring some value, get on top of the leaderboard, and I'll reach out to you to get to know what are you doing especially that gets you to the top of the leaderboard. Thank you, Eva.
thank you. Bye.
Bye.